Buenas Amundos. Hi, everybody. It's Mr. B. We're going to continue this idea of comparing two texts, comparing and contrasting two texts. In other words, answering a question that has to do with two different things that you've read. I sent over this yesterday, and what we're going to do today is we're going to break it down. And one of the reasons I like these particular passages is that they work in two ways. The questions are broken down as such. You've got one article, then you've got the next article separately. And then at the end, you're answering the questions that have to do with both articles. Okay? So this is, use the article, both of these articles to answer these questions. I'm going to move myself over here a little bit. Hey, now I'm over there. What we're going to do is we're going to really look at one question by itself. And you guys might think, oh my gosh, how can you get a whole lesson out of one question? Well, we're going to use two questions actually, but one group. What we're going to do is, in order to compare two texts, you've got to use the strategy of going back to the text to find those answers. You got to do it twice, right? You got to do it for the one text, then you got to do it for the other text when you're comparing. And that's where it gets dicey, because sometimes, let's be honest, we get lazy and we don't do it for one test. I'm going to show you, I'm going to go through this first question here, these first two questions, and I'm going to give you an example of how to find these answers and how to properly answer them, okay? Then your assignment is going to be to do this part, answers 3 and 4. So let me show you how I went about this. Well, let's look at question number 1. After the reflector is on Ariel's bike, Ariel rides down the sidewalk. Next, she rides over the bump. Then it's time for the final test. What is the final test? Now, what we got to do is we've got to look at some key words here, right? The first word is after. After. Not before, after. So we're going to find these things and see what happens after them, right? Now, after the reflector is glued, okay? You can look for the word reflector if you want, but we're really looking for this act, gluing. We're looking for the gluing of the reflector, okay? And then we're looking for this, the final test. Now, I'm going to go to that article now. Up here. That's not it. It's this one. And I'm going to look, and I highlighted there we go. We took out some super glue, right? Let's use glue. Okay, glue, we found that. That's one part, right? But it's after, the question was after they glued it together. Now we're looking for that, the words final test. Maybe. Okay, so I go down a little bit. There's reflector. We found that. But now it is time for the final test. Okay, so I found it. The final test. It's time to ride under the tree. All right? So, that is the answer to that question, isn't it? What is the final test? Let's see if I can write in here. I don't know if I can. Boop. It's like that, isn't it? Oh, well. So the final test would be to ride under the tree. That would be the final test. What is the purpose of the final test? Support your answers with evidence from the text. Guys, this is where we mess up a lot. We mess up a lot on this. What is the purpose of the final test? Support your answers with evidence. Evidence from the text. That means prove that your answer is right. Okay? So the purpose of the final text is going to be a tricky one. So when I go up here, this will be just like just like last time, my sister rode under the tree. However, this time the reflector stayed on the bike. Now, if you've read the article, you know that the whole idea is to make sure that the reflector stayed on the bike. So if you put your answer as evidence, the text said this time the reflector stayed on the bike. That's not really evidence. Let's go back a little farther and see what happened the first time they rode under the tree. Okay, so I'm going to look for keywords here. I'm going to look for tree, right? I'm going to look for tree, and let's see if I can find it. Okay, so if I scroll up in the text a little bit, then she rode underneath the tree. Okay, so this is going to be the first, I knew what was coming next. What was coming next? One of the branches from the tree swept across the back of her bike. Next thing I knew, the whole reflector was untied and on the ground. Okay? So, the purpose of that last test was to see if the reflector would hold when the branch of the tree swept across the back of her bike. Now, if we scroll down, it doesn't say that the branch of the tree scraped across the back of her bike, right? It doesn't say that this time. So to answer this question properly, you've got to see what happened the first time, right? So really the purpose of the final test was to see if the reflector would stay on if a branch swept past it. Now, do you see how in depth I had to go to answer that one question? Right? So, what I would say, my answer to this one would be, and I wish I could put in just text. Let's see if I can. So, for the purpose of the final test, you would have to see if the purpose of it is to see if the reflector will stay on in all the conditions that they set forth. And if you read it, you'll figure out that it's kind of a science experiment, right? The evidence from the text would be that you went back and it said the first time they rode underneath the tree, a branch swept down and knocked off the reflector. And so that's going to be your evidence for how you know that the purpose is to see if the reflector stays on. Because last time it did not stay on. They have to give it that final test to make sure that the glue held through all the conditions. That's the type of answer that they're looking for. Okay, so you've got to be very thorough about how you answer these questions. So what you're going to do now is you're going to look at running like a pro and answer 3 and 4. Please send me your answers to these. I want to see how you approach them. Write them out in paper and pencil, what have you, whatever, okay? I just want to see how you answer it. All right? Look at this. What's the key word? What does she have him do next, right? You're going to have to look for these words. All right, everyone. Next time I see you, which will be after Thanksgiving for reading, I'll be back in my classroom. So the lessons hopefully will be a little better. I am going to go to Zoom lessons. So get ready because I'm going to be seeing you guys for Zoom lessons. It won't be long. Okay, I'll take you for, maybe a 10-minute lesson, 15-minute lesson, and a little bit of independent work. But I'm going to go to that too. I won't keep you long. I know you guys are busy with Miss Carol, and I know that you got a lot to do. Anyways, good luck. We'll see ya. Take care. All right. Bye.